Hey guys, and welcome back to another Shadow Priest viewer analysis video. I just want to say before we get started, I'm using a different mic this time, so let me know if you guys think this mic is better or worse. I pretty much feel like there's no way it could be worse than my last mic, so let me know if you got what you guys think, if I need to change anything or whatever. Um, anyway, let's just start the video. Today we're going to take a look at a Mists of Tyranus Scythe 18 that was done by that same guy from the last episode, Paul. So Paul watched my last video. He made some changes to his gameplay, I guess, and he sent me this new log and video of an 18 Mists that he did, where he did 8K overall. So um, significantly better, right? So hopefully we can take a look. I just wanted to make this video to show that uh, what things he changed, what things I still think he could improve on, that kind of thing, and also give him like kind of a platform to show off how he's improved, right? So hopefully this is going to be a good helpful video. So first things first, let's click on him and let's go to his summary just to take a look at his outside of the dungeon stuff, right? So first, he's playing Khorane. This week is Fortified, Spiteful, Grievous, and obviously still Prideful because it's Season 1 still. Season 1 is going to last forever, I feel like, at this point. So let's just take a look. When you play Khorane, usually people play Khorane in on fortified weeks and high fortified keys, just because the critical strike that you get from this first strike soulbind trait is really nice, and it leads to, you can play Ancient Madness, and it leads to you could do some really big trash damage running this build. This build is going to fall behind pretty significantly on single target compared to other Shadow Priest builds, right? Like Ancient Madness means that your Void forms aren't going to be as long as if you were running Hungering Void. And you've only got one potency conduit over here versus having two, right, with playing Naya. And you don't have Grove Invigoration, so your Void forms aren't going to be as strong. There's a lot of things that add up to just meaning that this Khorane build is going to be really good for trash, and then pretty trash for bosses, right? Just compared to other builds that you could be running. The fact that Shadow Priest baseline has really good single target means that you're punished less, because even with this really bad single target build, our single target is still going to be pretty strong compared to other classes. But yeah, we are going to fall behind compared to where we would be if we were running Naya with Hungering Void and two potency conduits and all that. So first off, yeah, he's got basically this is exactly right for all the stuff up here that you want to be running for this Khorane build. Death and Madness, always a go-to in Mythic Plus, Body and Soul as well. And then with Khorane, the idea is that you are going to have a ton of crit, right? So Searing Nightmare and Shadow Crash are really good. Ancient Madness also, people will run this with Khorane as well. You could potentially run Hungering Void, but it's going to mean you have less trash damage because Ancient Madness is going to give you a huge burst of crit when you first enter Void form. So what a lot of people will do is you pull a really big pack, pop Void form, and immediately throw out a Shadow Crash, and it crits for like 20k on 50 different targets, and you do like a billion damage or whatever. So you could run Hungering Void here if it was like you really need at least some single target damage. But in pretty much all cases that you're going to play Khorane, you want to play Ancient Madness. So this is all right. Again, like I say in every video, these item levels could be higher. You just need to do the Maw. So I'm a big time advocate for doing the Maw. So go out there and farm some Stygia. And then also you could have 6 sockets on your gear, but you don't, right? That'll increase your damage passively. So again, I've said this before, right? Do the Maw. It's a good idea. even going into 9.1, having 6 sockets on your gear is going to be helpful compared to if you don't. And it looks like you died 3 times in this dungeon. Interesting. 2 to Grievous Wound. That's really interesting. I wonder if your healer was having a hard time. Okay, so yeah, we'll just skip all this stuff. Oh, you've got a 226 ruby. That's super nice. We'll skip all this stuff though, because that's basically all I wanted to say on this front. Your stats are looking good. Basically, yeah, you've got all this outside of raid stuff pretty good, except for doing the Maw. But that's a lot of people hate the Maw, so I don't blame you. Okay, then we'll just get right into the video. So, they start the dungeon, right? I will mention that this week being spiteful means that your damage is going to look higher than it is, usually because you're padding on spiteful, right? And whether it's padding or not depends on a couple things, because like if you're getting first strike procs from, okay, so they're going to do a really big pull right here, so you should be popping all your cooldowns, I would imagine. Oh, also Arcane Torrent, interesting. That's the Shadow Crash I was talking about. He Shadow Crashed right after entering Void Form. That's exactly what you want to do, so that's good. Oh, he's going to die to a melee here because he has too much aggro. I wonder if you have Fade up or if you just, if you faded pre-pull. I guess we can see. I was hoping to not make this video take too long, but do we see Fade anywhere? So if we look up here, we should see a Fade buff. No Fade, no Fade. Still no Fade. Yeah. So you should have faded this almost certainly. I guess we can go back and see if you faded earlier, but I don't think so. There was no point in fading earlier anyway. So you could have survived right here, I think. Just press fade. I know it sucks to press fade in the middle of all your cooldowns, especially because you're like pretty limited on the amount of globals you have in your cooldowns. Like everything, you barely have enough time to cast all your really important spells. But yeah, you should definitely have faded this. You could have survived for sure. And then you lose a ton of damage right here because you died in the middle of your cooldowns, right? So you're not going to get full value out of them. But still, I mean, you know, that's just something that you should be fading early and often is what I like to say. So, and right here, okay, I was gonna say right there, you want to focus that overgrowth, but I guess the guy just died. It's more important to get your homie out of the stun thing than it is to, almost always, it's going to be an overall DPS increase if you get your homie out of the overgrowth versus just continuing to do damage. So like when this goes off on this Warlock right here, you should turn and focus it. It's only got 8k HP, so you could hit it with like a Mind Blast and a Shadow Word Death, and it'd probably be dead. So so yeah, that's one of the benefits to running Karain. I like this weak aura that you've got, by the way, that tells you you're targeted by a Spiteful. That's helpful. And it's super important to know that, right? I was going to say, one of the benefits to running Karain on a Spiteful week is that it's really easy to get procs of First Strike. For anybody who doesn't know, First Strike gives you a bunch of critical strike if you hit an enemy before it hits you, right? So with Spiteful, that's super easy because the only way for them to hit you is if they're meleeing you. And if they're meleeing you, you've got bigger problems than just not getting the crit, right? So, yeah, so it's super easy. If you'll just passively get a lot of crit because if you're just spamming Searing Nightmare and stuff starts dying, right? Then as the Spiteful guys start spawning, your Searing Nightmares will hit them just due to the nature of them spawning near where you're already Searing Nightmaring. So you'll get a bunch of crit. Right here, he's popping on all his cooldowns, and he's popping off, right? So he put Vampiric Touch on everything. And actually, this is unfortunate because you've still got, like, a bunch of time on your cooldowns, and the Affliction Warlock also popped his cooldowns right there, which means that stuff died a little quicker. So that's something that like being in a more coordinated group or like talking about it or something would help. But because you don't want to, I've said this a million times, but you don't want to be using your cooldowns at the same time as everybody else. And then right here, you've got these two bow breaker guys, I think they're called. And they cast this Furious Thrashing. Depending on how good your healer is, and I don't know, right, because I don't know this healer, but depending on how good they are, a lot of the time it's easier to just push both of these at the same time. So the Furious Thrashing goes out, and it is at the same time, right? So that you can pop a healing cooldown or something to live through it. That'd be a great time to fade, use Desperate Prayer, all that stuff to help you survive. But you guys didn't do that, so it's whatever. And then you popped Void Form right here. Interesting. You're going to lose some value of it because you just don't have any time. Because nothing's alive, right? You have no targets to hit. But then, yeah, you get into this Prideful, and it should be just fine. You could snipe that guy with a Shadow Word Death. It looks like you tried, but didn't manage to get him. And then, yeah, this is just your regular old Prideful, right? So your dots are falling off here, which is less than ideal. And then now you've got PI and Mindbender up, so you should be saving these for the boss, right? It looks like your healer is having a hard time, actually, and you pop Vampiric Embrace right there, which is nice. So yeah, it's probably a good thing that you didn't push both of the bow breakers at the same time. So then, yeah, on this boss fight, you want to put both dots on the small guy, and then you want to focus the big guy. You need to dodge these frontals, which you dodged pretty easy. Using your Dark Thoughts procs while you're channeling Mind Flay is good. Your dots fell off of the small guy, and they're starting to fall off the big guy, but you reapply them. You could have reapplied your Shadow Word Pain just a tad earlier on the small guy. And then right now you should be popping Void Form because you're about to get into the... Yeah, so your Void Form comes out like 2 globals too late, basically. But you should be blasting this guy right now. Yeah, like look at your overall. You're doing 20k. I mean, not overall, but you're doing 25k on this guy. This should be an easy one phase with you and the Affliction Warlock both blasting like that. So yeah, you probably could have finished that guy off before he finished his little cast thing. If you had just popped Void Form like 2 globals earlier, right before it transitioned, rather than right after it transitioned. But that's like it's important, but it's not a huge deal because you guys managed to one phase it anyway. So okay, so now you're on this 2-pack. You're casting Mindseer right here. That's fine for the first application of Shadow Word Pain, but then you should just be doing your single target rotation. Oh, the Warlock pulled through the wall, so that's nice. Now you can be doing your big Mindseer rotation. And you've got your Mindbender up, and there's only 6 targets. So I would be probably trying to get more value out of my Mindbender right now. By using more Mind Blasts and some Shadow Word Deaths as things get low. But you're doing just fine, about 12k DPS. And then right here, as stuff starts dying, you want a Mindseer to make sure you get those first strike procs, which you're doing. That's good. Kicking those Bramblethorn coats is important. And then yeah, just sniping stuff with Shadow Word Death as it dies. You could put Vampiric Touch on that Star Guardian probably, but just to help kill it a little bit quicker here at the end. And then I would tag the Shade, good. That gives you a proc. And tag that other Shade with a Shadow Word Pain. Or snipe this guy with Shadow Word Death, that's not a bad idea. Okay, that's fine. I would tag this Shade as well that just spawned in the back. Also, nobody knows where the lady went. This one is like the easiest because you can just watch her go through it, right? So this is a time loss, obviously. Usually what I'll do is I watch her go through, and I either just remember and walk through as soon as it's ready, or I put down like a world marker to be like, hey, she went this way. Right here, you're putting Vampiric Touch on everything, and then you're popping all of your cooldowns. Not a horrible idea, because it's good to have your cooldowns on cooldown, right? And actually this looks like it's going to turn out pretty good. So I guess the only thing I would say about that is you had like no casts of Void Bolt right there, which is not horrible. And obviously it's not horrible because you're doing 15k DPS. But maybe consider it because you can get some apparitions going and get some more insanity gen. Although you weren't really like needing insanity gen, and your apparitions aren't going to do as much damage because you've only got the one potency conduit. Right here, you were capped on insanity for a while, but then you solved that pretty quick, right? You need to dodge this frontal. That's easy. Your Mindbender's up. I would have held it right here because your Void Form has like 6 seconds left before it's off cooldown. I probably, I probably would have held the Mindbender for the Void Form. Just because this guy healed a little bit in this pool. Also, you're doing a good job right here of standing in this pool because it heals you if you stand in it. I don't know if most people know that, but I think I've mentioned it before. But yeah, when the dragon puts down that pool of radiance, I think it's called, you want to go stand in it. Oh, the Affliction Warlock got hit by that frontal. Ouch. But yeah, like I was saying, I would have held my Mindbender there for the Void Form just because that dragon got, and right now it just got 2 more, but before it got 2 ticks of the pool, and just now it got 2 more ticks, so it healed itself up a decent amount. You definitely could have got full value of a Mindbender and a Void Form. I would tag this Spiteful right here. Definitely snipe it with Shadow Word Death. You didn't do either. That would have given you a first strike proc, which means you have more crit, right? And also if you sniped it with a Shadow Word Death, you'd get more insanity. I don't know what your healer is doing right there. Standing on top of you when you have the lines, those inting, I would say. And then yeah, you're just gonna, I would snipe this guy with your Soul Letting Ruby if you can. And you don't. Okay. And you could have sniped it with Shadow Word Death too. Oh, it looks like you did. Yeah, because you got some insanity gen right there. And then the druid runs through the wrong maze thing. Obviously, you do not want to go through the wrong maze thing. But yeah, so far right now, doing 8.7k overall. Not bad. Pretty good, actually, for like this beginning part of the dungeon. There are still some big trash pulls. Like, you could make this a double trash pull if you pull this into the next pack, if your tank could handle it. And then you could do some serious damage. Also, you still have this weak aura thing that's telling you the right direction. I guess that's just a personal preference. But it makes it's just, I just don't like it, dude. It's just so cluttered. Like, it just takes up so much of your screen. But to each their own, I guess. So yeah, right here, you're gonna, it's just 5 targets, so you want to be kicking that. Nice, you kick the Nourish the Forest. And then yeah, you just, you're putting Vampiric Touch on some of this stuff because it's gonna live for a while. Not a horrible idea. You can stun that Stalker when it's about to cast the problem is that it's really hard to see on your screen right now because you have that big weak aura in the way. But when that Stalker is about to cast the Mistveil Bite, this thing, and your screen flashes blue like that, you can Psychic Horror the Stalker and he won't cast it on you, and he won't immediately recast it on you. You can avoid taking it pretty significantly. Oh, I didn't see how you died right there. Let me go back just a little bit. So you've got a Spiteful on you. Oh, and then you just die to the dot from the Stalker. Yeah, so that's not... So I want to be careful saying that it's not your fault that you died right there, because in 99% of situations where you die, there's something you could have done to avoid it. Like you could have dispersed, you could have popped VE to help with healing. You could have probably desperate prayed, all these things, right? There's a bunch of different things you could do. You could have even stunned that stalker before he did the misfill bite, like I was talking about. You could have stunned it before it went out on you, and then you wouldn't have had that dot. So, I mean, there's like a lot of things you could have done right there, but also you could have just been healed through it, right? So it's kind of like you should always be looking for ways that you could have prevented your own death, because you can never you can change how you play, but you can't change how other people play, right? At least not easily. You're in charge of your own life, right? So if you're gonna die and there are things that you can do to avoid it, then that's preferable to just having somebody else, hoping that somebody else will save you, right? Because while somebody else might save you, like I was saying, it's your responsibility to make sure you're alive. So, yeah. So you're working on this Prideful again. You used Mindbender, I think, on this, but you still have your Ruby, your Power Infusion, and your Void Form. Should be saving those probably for the next next pack. Oh, it looks like you're going straight to boss. So I'd pop them on pull right here. So I would have used Soul Letting Ruby on that Prideful as it died. And then, yeah, nice. This is pretty good. That's a good opener. So I'll go back just a little, just to show what was good about that. So right here, this Prideful is about to die. Soul Letting Ruby, boom, hit it, and you get a ton of crit. And then you can carry that crit with you as you go into this boss fight. And then if we watch, you do this pretty well. Because you didn't use Soul Letting Ruby on the Prideful right there, you want to use it on pull right here, just so that you get the crit during your cooldown windows. The other argument would be that you don't use it on pull, and then you use it on something as it dies in the intermission, which is okay, I guess, but it's not as good as having the crit during your cooldown windows. Plus, it desyncs it from your Power Infusion. Anyway, so yeah, you want to put Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, Soul Letting Ruby, and then one charge of Mind Blast, so that's on cooldown, and then you get into Void Form. And what you should do is you should use, because you're not playing Naya, you want to use your Fey Guardians not right before Void Form and not while you're in Void Form, but you want to use it right after, because the only reason you use it before Void Form is when you're playing Naya, you get a huge stat stick of mastery, right? A mastery steroid is what they call them. So you get a ton of mastery from Grove Invigoration. But when you're playing Karain, you get nothing from popping Void Form. I mean, from popping Fey Guardians, except for what it actually does, which is the cooldown reduction, the damage reduction, and the Insanity Gen. So the Insanity Gen is like the only thing that you might want, and might be an argument for using it right before getting into Void Form. But at the same time, you mostly just want it for the cooldown reduction at this point. So I guess what you could do is Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, Fey Guardians, Mind Blast, and then Void Form, and then your first global after your very first. So you should pop Void Form, then you should Void Bolt, and then in that global between your Void Bolt and your Shadow Crash that should come right after it, you should press Power Infusion. So what you do instead is Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, Fey Guardians right there, and then you Power Infusion after you put your Fey Guardians out. Not horrible. Then you Mind Blast, Void Eruption, and then immediately Shadow Crash instead of a Void Bolt. If you Void Bolt here, you're just going to do a little bit more damage with this Shadow Crash, but it's not a huge loss. So yeah, probably not the most optimal opener, but definitely a good one. Definitely not bad. So yeah, it looks like the Warlock also popped his cooldowns right there, because you're already in the intermission. What you can do is Oh, you got rid of your. That was interesting. You got rid of your. Oh, actually, that was on purpose. It wasn't an accident. That's actually pretty smart. Getting rid of your UI so that you can see all of um, the like circles and flowers and things above the heads. Huh. Not a bad idea. So what I was gonna say is that Vulpin that spawns every so often, you should. It's a little hard in a pug because pugs really hate. There's just like not a lot of communication in a pug, right? Also, this lust is really bad. Should have saved lust for this next after this next intermission, right? Because the guessing game comes out, so you've got like 30 seconds on lust, and people are hitting these like you get no boss damage right now. So that warlock who is begging for the lust right now should have waited until after the intermission. But like I was saying, there's very little communication in pugs typically. So what you would want to do preferably is hit the Vulpin right as it spawns with like maybe a one tick of Mind Flay or something, or a Mind Blast or a Void Bolt, something that's not a dot, so that you can get the first strike bonus from Karain, so you get the crit. And then after you've hit it once, you put your CC or whatever on it from your group. But because it's a pug, it's going to be hard to do that. Also, you can snipe them with Shadow Word Death, even though they don't have like. If you just pay attention to when it spawns and how long it has left before it disappears, you can hit it with a Shadow Word Death before it disappears, and you'll get the Insanity gen as if it died, right? And then yeah, right here on Mistcaller, you don't have either of your dots up, and then you finish the boss fight. So your durability is at 83%. I would repair right now, but that's like not a huge deal. And then it looks like your tank is saying skipping first 3, double pull. So you're gonna probably CC this guy on the left, and then that's a nice levitate. Lets you not take damage. CC the guy on the left, and then you guys are gonna run past. Getting this acorn right here, especially when you're doing this this big pull, is a good idea. Oh, and then you're going to use your invisibility potion. I don't think you actually need it here. I think you can just run by that guy without pulling when it's in-capped like that. And then, yeah, this is going to be the big pull. So you're going to want to pop. You should be putting Vampiric Touch on stuff as it's running in. And then you're going to want to pop Power Infusion, Fey Guardians, Power Infusion. Oh, you're so close to pulling those guys in the back. Power Infusion, Fey Guardians, and then Shadow Crash right after you get into Void Form, and then Searing Nightmare spam like crazy. And it looks like this pull was pretty scuffed. Also, you've been standing in that this volatile acid circle from your teammates a bunch. You should avoid that. Also, with this sketchy pull, popping Vampiric Embrace is a good idea as well. As stuff is like getting gathered together. But you managed pretty well. It looked like your Warlock died. Your healer was having a hard time. You need to dodge this circle and don't stand in that circle. Good. Tag that Spiteful just for some critical strike. Tag these Spitefuls as well. There's one on you. You can Psychic Scream it away or Psychic Horror it. That's good as well. Tag that last Spiteful. Good. And then you're into another 4-pack, right? So this one, I'd probably put Vampiric Touch on maybe all 4. At least 2 of them probably. Probably on the Staghorn. And then, yeah, probably just on the Staghorn actually, if I'm not going to do it on all 4. But I probably would put it on all 4 as he was bringing them in. And then Searing Nightmare spam is definitely the play. tag these shades here for some critical strike, and then you need to immediately be on the prideful. Yeah, okay, good. So you were still like hitting a couple things there at the end after the prideful spawned. You need to immediately move over to the prideful, especially if there's like any chance that it's going to be really hard to kill, right? If your healer is having a hard time, like this run right now, you're not with the strongest healer, right? I don't want to just flame them and say they're bad, but because I don't know them, right? But there have been healing issues, right? So you're gonna get hit by this prideful line. Oh no, you barely dodged it. Nice. But yeah, so with situations like this where you're in a pug and there have been healing issues, right? Like you die right here. It's important to be proactive about like helping heal and making sure that you're using all your defensives and everything and being tanky as you can. And in that same note, Vampiric Touch heals you when it does damage for a percent of the damage it's dealing. You could pop all your CDs here, by the way, and you should definitely be putting Vampiric Touch on some of these before. So what I mean by putting Vampiric Touch on stuff as it's getting gathered is your Demon Hunter tank, if we go back just a little bit. So right now, if we go back to like here, let's say, watch your Demon Hunter tank. So he runs in, he's going to pull this stuff, right? And you should immediately be targeting this guy with the star next to his name and the other one. There's 2 elites in this pack and a bunch of larvae. You should target both of them, and you should put Vampiric Touch on both as he runs over to this other pack to pull it. So Vampiric Touch now on this guy, and then the next global Vampiric Touch this guy. And then if you pull aggro right here, you pop Fade so that he maintains aggro. It's unlikely that a Vampiric Touch is going to pull aggro on both of these, right? Because it doesn't do a ton of damage. But if you do, you have Fade. So that's one of the cool things about Shadow Priest is that most classes just have to wait for everything to be picked up before they can start doing big damage. But Shadow Priest having Fade means that you can start doing damage to stuff before the tank has full aggro, and you can just fade and have 0 aggro, and he can continue picking up the aggro. So you should Vampiric Touch those 2 for sure as he's grabbing this other pack, and then I would start Searing Nightmare spamming. So instead, you just sit here and do nothing for a while. That's less than ideal. And then yeah, you're into your Searing Nightmare spam, your Shadow Crash. You get your crit right here from the Soul Letting Ruby. And then yeah, you're doing, big damage. So all in all, not horrible. You pop your Mindbender right there. Another Shadow Crash. Good. Oh, you almost get knocked off. That was really close. And then you're targeted by 2 of these Spitefuls. Oh, I like that as well from that weak aura, that it tells you how many are targeting you. That's nice. And then yeah, you're full on Insanity here, so you don't have to worry about sniping with Shadow or Death too much. Because you're not gonna have a way to dump Insanity until this Prideful, I guess. Oh, and you pull 4 of these Reavers. Interesting. This is going to be really sketchy. So these guys leave a nasty nature dot on people. This will be interesting to see. The Druid can dispel it. So what I would do, I guess, if I was the Druid... Yeah, you're going to die super big time here. You should disperse for sure. Oh, you get dispelled. Nice. Yeah, what I was going to say is, if I was the Druid right there, having 4 Reavers like that, you can probably heal through 1 or 2 stacks of the dot on somebody. But if somebody gets 4 stacks of the dot, like you had right there, that's like big danger. So they should be saving their dispel for that. And they did dispel you when you got 4 stacks, so that's really good. And then this is the last Prideful in the key. I don't know if doing this Prideful is the right idea or is the right call. When you get to the end of Mists of Tyrannus Light like this and you've got 95% trash already, it's arguable whether it's better to do this Prideful and carry it into the boss, or if it's better to just do the boss real quick and then finish the trash after. really it mostly comes down to like what are the cooldown situations looking like for all the DPS. But especially on a fortified week like this, um, trash takes longer to kill than bosses typically, and actually, let me rephrase that. The boss is going to take longer than any trash pack, right? But trash is stronger than the bosses, so it's not as easy as on a tyrannical week to kill trash. Is basically what I'm saying. So getting that prideful is going to take longer than it would on a tyrannical week, and then killing the boss is not going to take as long, right? So the argument is, I would say maybe consider pulling this boss and then finishing the trash and then skipping the last prideful, right? So we could even look real quick. We're at 2420, so let's go back. So how long does this prideful take to kill is what I'm interested in. So this prideful spawns at about 2251. It's got 100% HP. And then it doesn't die until right now, which is 2339. So that's what, 48 seconds? It takes 48 seconds to kill that prideful. Okay. So then we were at 2420, right? So if it takes 48 seconds to kill that prideful, that's 48 seconds that you can cut off your key completely if you kill the boss first and then finish the trash and skip that prideful, right? But the only reason why it's not a very clear cut, we should do that every time kind of thing, is because if you don't have cooldowns for this boss, then having that 48 seconds of prideful where your cooldowns can come off cooldown is a good thing. Right here, you're fixated by all these things and you run them into the tank. That's really good. You want to, if you get fixated by these things, it's very important that you put them on top of the boss so that they can be cleaved. A lot of people will just run away from these things and take them, you know, out in the middle of nowhere. But that's not the play, right? If you run it into the boss, then you can keep doing damage to the boss. Other people can keep doing damage to the boss, and they can help kill the parasite things while they're doing damage to the boss. So that's good. Yeah, and then I don't think there's much left to say about this. All in all, you did really well on this key, right? You changed to Searing Nightmare spam and started doing that like crazy, which, as like a general rule of thumb, is a good idea, right? There are like small optimizations you could have made, right? And I mentioned a bunch during the key. But yeah, all in all, 8k overall in an 18 Mists of Tyr and Scythe is something that I would not be sad with, right? That's pretty good. So good job, Paul. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully anybody else found this helpful. And feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Join my Discord. Let me know if you want me to take a look at one of your videos. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.